Yeah. I do need some coffee or something, man. I was out kicking it last night. Pretty soon we're gonna have to tap in over at the new spot here in Xenia, Upper Echelon, man.
Yes,
It's a
sir.
newer black-owned business restaurant. They got some great food there. Last night I got a tattoo here at Icons Barber Salon. We have a tattoo artist. Like I said, we want to be a one-stop shop. Love is Action is actually one of my brands. You'll see with sweatshirts coming soon, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, all that.
I love his action. As everybody says that they love somebody. And, it just be words at the end of the day.
Right.
It's kind of like with my daughter when she does something wrong and she apologizes, and I always tell her best way to show that, you're sorry is, change behavior, not just saying it.
Right. Real talk. Yeah. And considering what you just said, being a bigger person is one of the topics that we would like to discuss. But being a bigger person, how do you feel about being a bigger person? I mean, obviously, we know there's benefits to being a bigger person.
Yeah.
But
unless you're a petty person, I mean, that's the only person I know that wouldn't want to be a bigger person.
I'm a little petty, just a little bit.
I think we all have some pettiness in it.
I'm a little petty. I do kind of sometimes find it hard being a bigger person, but I find myself being a bigger person more so than none. You know what I mean? Because I don't really care to be in that disgruntled state with anybody. You know what I mean? So I'm going to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
Where I should.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might even mean overlooking the fact that somebody isn't holding themselves accountable in the situation as well. What do you think?
So I was gonna say, for me, like being a bigger person, I get hostile texts all the time, and I think being non-reactive is the best way to be, and that's being a bigger person in a way. Because a lot of times people start arguments with you in hopes to get a reaction out of you, and when you don't feed into it, that's being a bigger person. But like you were saying earlier about being petty, I think we all have a degree of pettiness. 50 Cent, he's one of my favorite rappers. Not because of his music, but him as a person.
Right.
Like, to an extent, I get it.
Right.
To an extent.
I fucks
now,
with
his pettiness is a little bit,
I think his pettiness is deserved. Like, it's like with him, especially with this Big Meech situation,
Yeah.
I think his pettiness is deserved. He's one of them people who look out for you, bring you on the team, and will not hesitate to kick your ass off if you go against the team, if you go against the grain when it comes to the team.
And he's been consistent. You know what I'm saying? He's been like this since he first came out.
Right.
Oh, you aligning yourself with them? I'm going at y'all too.
And even with women, with Vivica, even women he's
his
dated.
own son.
Right, boy, his own son. So
I kind of feel him on that. Oh, shoot.
What you mean?
Because like, if your offspring just completely, let's say, dishonored you, disgraced your name, entitlement complex, things of that nature, at what point do you stop tolerating it just because it's your son? Like, what's the cutoff point for you? Like, with family, it don't gotta be like your kids, but
it ain't really no cutoff point, man. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a cutoff point to healing, and most of us are at odds because of some ailment we suffer from, some trauma we experienced as kids.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that sense, it's always going to be room for healing and room for us to collab or come together as family, because that's what we're here for.
What about somebody like stole from you? Like, you can overlook certain actions because, like, I can forgive certain actions, but things will never be the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, with family, they're always going to be family. So, I
don't know. Thievery is, I'm not going to set myself up to, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but I'm not going to set myself up to be stolen from again.
Yeah, basically. I think that's the best way to respond to situations like that.
Because you never know. I mean, if it's drugs, then that person really aren't them.
Right. Because I do believe that when you have less poverty, you have less crime rate.
Respect.
And like you said, too, about people stealing when they're on drugs. And, drugs is one of the ways that people cope with everyday living. Because a lot of people are depressed, man. So, like, I just think that we don't use the word depressed, but you see it all the time. Like people that pop perks and they self-medicate to get them through whatever trauma they experiencing or experienced. And that's another way that it manifests itself. Using drugs leads to thievery, obviously, dishonest behavior. You tend to lose your integrity under the influence, and that's why you gotta stay away from degenerate people, because degeneracy will always attract itself. Down here we have the fentanyl crisis, and the way that's been going, it's not even worth self-medicating. Like if you're going through something, I know we frown upon it in the black community, but there's always a mental health facility you can go to. You don't necessarily got to be medicated to get better. You can see a psychologist, and because there's different forms of therapy, and
And I'm actually searching for a therapist myself. I think it's important for men to have accountability partners,
oh
and
yeah,
and it's not always going to come in a friendship. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, because sometimes a lot of times we think we outdoing somebody by trying to uh, promote our success as a way to motivate our peers to be successful. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I've heard somebody say this recently, like, I don't want to brag about my success because I don't want nobody to think I think too much of myself. But I want to be somebody who can encourage my brothers to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So we're never out trying to outshine each other. We're always trying to sharpen each other as iron do. Iron sharpens iron. And mental health is important. And the smallest
yeah.
disconnect means you need to find someone to help you um, get grounded again. So if you have a therapist or you have a friend that you can talk to, or you can Google questions to ask a therapist to get you started on how to change your way of thinking until you get a therapist. I know I said a lot, but that's real.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So I want to ask you something. I think we all gotta check our sensitivity level, because a lot of times our friends can't help us, or they might notice a behavior that needs correction. They might not say anything because they might feel like you're sensitive or your feelings will get hurt if I tell you something that may better you. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to call it checking your friend, because checking, that kind of has like a tone to it, like
Right.
yeah, a threatening kind of tone to it. But yeah, you gotta check your friends when you see them moving a certain way. Like, hey, bro, what are you doing?
I'm sure you familiar with the term "Am I my brother's keeper?" You know, I think it actually comes from the Bible, maybe, but we pop culture got familiar with it. Hip hop culture got familiar with it when Cash Money Brothers, New Jack City, with Nino Brown and damn, what was his boy G Money? G Money, we all we got. Cash Money Brothers. Am I my brother's keeper? You know what I mean? So in
Yeah,
that sense, you care about your brother. You paying attention to his behaviors, his
yeah,
habits. You notice something different. You
yeah.
question him like, bro, what's been up? I noticed some changes. I noticed some things kind of falling off. Where you at today? Where you at in your mind? Where you at in your
You know what
spirit?
kills me though is because I hear it a lot in hip hop. I ride for my brother no matter what. Like I understand it. Like when it comes to family, you always get your family's back.
Right.
But there's a time too when somebody does some straight up bullshit that you just gotta check on. Like, bro, that shit wasn't cool. Like,
Right.
I know that's my brother and all, but yeah, yo, that's not cool. Like, cause we had this mentality, like, your kid might do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, someone might come to you and tell you that your son or daughter did something, and instead of getting defensive, listen to what they're saying and check your kid instead of saying, getting reactive as soon as you hear some news about your kid and, going off on a person, you
Well,
know.
no, I agree, but we don't have a village no more. You know what I mean? They say it
Yeah,
takes a village to raise a child. It also takes a village to sustain a village. You know what I mean? Like we got to work together to maintain a certain culture. That was a culture.
yeah,
That was a cultural norm. That was a part of our culture. Raising each other's children, spanking. If Miss Jenkins saw you stealing, she spanked you. You
yeah,
called your granny. Granny spanked you. Mama came home and busted you upside the head. and you learned that I can't I can't f around because the whole community watching,
Yeah.
and we regulated each other that way. You know what I mean? That kind of, you know, that it's funny how that part of culture has been canceled. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have those norms that made us quote unquote black people no more. You know what I mean? You knew you could get dealt with it from you. You knew you can get some act right from anybody on the street when you wasn't in line. You know what I mean? You knew that no matter how hard or how thugged out the gangsters on the block was, they was gonna check you and make sure you respected your elders and you respected the women in the community. You know what I mean? You saw Miss Jenkins walking out the street
Yeah.
with some bags in her hand. They would make you go get those bags and take
Yeah.
them to her house. You know?
I get it because they say first law preservation. Like, so I get it.
Well,
Everybody's out for themselves.
the first law of nature
Yeah.
is self-preservation. Yeah, and you know, but self, it starts off with the individual, but it ends up with community because that we should skin folk should be kinfolk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a certain awakening that's happening, a certain consciousness that's coming back around to where we on our back Black Panther shit. More black businesses are being established, so we want to support more black businesses. So in tune, that's a small way we're returning to what we used to be, but we're so far removed. It's gonna take some
Yeah.
real initiative and intent
Yeah.
behind the effort.
Even the word culture, I'm starting to feel like that's being overused. You know.
I you know I think it's, yeah, I wouldn't say overused. I just think it's not. There's no substance to it.
Yeah.
You know
Because
what I
what is
mean?
like
Because
before there was a black culture. Now it's like,
rap is black culture.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not black culture. You know what I mean? For the most part, culture describes the way people do things
Yeah.
within their particular community. You know, we don't really have a culture anymore. It's been saturated with bullshit. So, you know, I would like to develop habits that would identify us as a particular culture, positive habits that show that we aren't the lazy folks that the slave rumors made us out to be, that we aren't violent like the news makes us out to be, and that we are more than just dancers and fucking booty twerking. The culture says it's okay.
Yeah.
So the culture of degenerate is the culture a degenerate culture?
Absolutely. Hip hop culture, it definitely is. It's gotten there.
Mm.
As much as we love that murder music, it's degeneracy. Killing each other, like that's what's being promoted. Like I was listening to Umar Johnson talk about it. I'm like, yo, he condemns hip hop a lot, but one thing I can't say is he's telling a lie. Because I'm trying to pick it apart. Because I'm all for hip hop and whatnot, but
Right.
there's nothing he said that I can just be like, ooh.
He's wrong.
Right. Like, oh, it employs black people, and it's like, yeah, that's true. But I kind of want to talk about that though,
What's that?
careers and jobs and whatnot,
Okay.
because I've had a lot of them throughout my years. Started off when I was 15 and whatnot, like most of us. When do you know it's time to leave a job?
I think when you've exhausted your opportunities.
Okay.
If you're on a job and you've exhausted the opportunity to grow, financially, professionally, then it's time to go.
Yeah, and I would say too, when you feel unappreciated. Like there was one job I had, right, where I felt like I was the best, doing the stock work. And once I didn't feel appreciated, when I know I'm moving, like I'm the best worker y'all got.
Right.
And if I hearing any type of flack, it's like, oh yeah, I ain't gotta be here. And on top of that, I can slow down if I want to. Like I don't gotta give you A+ effort. So I think it's important to, always keep negativity to yourself when you're on the workforce. Because, people do have stresses at home, and here you go clocking in. Last thing you want to hear is, you know,
It's a great advantage to be able to go to work and like what you do.
Yeah.
Now, this is a real conversation to the little homies who aren't entrepreneurs and might have to work for somebody. Like,
Yeah, starting off, you gotta.
so,
Yeah.
like, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to work doing the shit you like to do. It's they say it's not work if you're doing what you love. So I advise everyone to try to make money doing what you love. 9 times out of 10, that does not happen.
Yeah.
Most people have jobs and not careers. A career is something you make out of doing what you love, something you make sure you're able to get paid from doing what you love. A job is something you do that pays the bills.
Yeah.
So I say that to say this: you're not always going to be appreciated on the job. I understand what Brice is saying, but if you don't have a choice, or if your options are I want to be appreciated or I need to pay these bills, you need to pay these bills.
Yeah.
You need to go to work, clock in on time. Sometimes you might need to work a couple of minutes past your time there to show that you are better than the rest. You know what I mean? You got to always take the initiative on the job.
Yeah.
Don't wait for someone to tell you what to do, because sometimes a manager don't want to have to micromanage his employees. You
And you
know,
definitely won't get a raise putting in minimum effort.
yeah, you definitely not. And I know the question was, how do you know when to quit a job? But these are also tools on how to keep a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of niggas ain't out here working like they should. And you should be working. Like, there's no excuse not to
Yeah.
pay the bills. There's no excuse not to have a paycheck coming. There's no excuse not to be a provider, if at anything, for yourself. You know what I
Yeah, and
mean?
also it's not quitting your dreams if you pursue a 9 to 5. You know, my background being an audio engineer, everybody feel like they got to put it all in the rap and not focus on having the income to go with it.
Right,
Because, you
right.
know, recording ain't cheap, nor is it free. So, you know, a lot of people misunderstand because they see everybody else blowing up and becoming art. And that goes for anything, whether you're an athlete, you know, if you got to work a 9 to 5 to support your household so that you have somewhere to stay and whatnot, do that. Then whatever remaining hours you put towards your passion, but, you know, it's not giving up on your dreams or quitting if you get a job, you know.
Right,
I just
because
thought that was important.
I mean, you know, the locomotive needs coal to fuel that. So sometimes your dream might be that locomotive, and the part-time job might be the coal fueling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until it pays for itself. Like, I've worked many second jobs to help pay rent here to maintain this place, because just being a growing business, everybody don't know you here.
Yeah, and sometimes people feel like they too good to do certain things too.
I am. No, I ain't gonna lie. I'm too good to do certain things.
Yeah.
No, I ain't too good to
If
do it.
you're like in that position though, but if
Right.
you're down bad and you don't got nothing and you feel like your resume's too bad to work anywhere, you better go to get that McDonald's application.
Say that.
And, you know, I think they're above minimum wage now. So, because back then I used to tell myself I'll never go back to fast food. I
Listen.
mean, it's still true, but
Right. No,
that's because I'm in a position.
I'd like to believe so you can manifest your life to be what it won't. I like to believe I won't do certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna put myself in a position to cut myself short when it comes to providing for me and mine. You know what I mean? So I don't know about saying there's certain things I won't do, but I'll just make sure I don't have to do them for a long ass time.
Yeah,
You know
or
what I
be
mean?
temporary.
Right.
Like if I gotta go back to, let's say, a fast food job, like when I was a teenager, it's gonna be mad temporary till I'm in the position or the other job I want to get out of there. You know.
Hey, I every now and then there's an instance where I say, if I knew then what I know now. And
Oh man.
if anybody is listening, you know now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Know now, don't you know it. Like, get to that shit for real. Like, if it's going to school, if it's applying for a job, if it's proposing to someone you love, whatever it is, you know what you want now, man. Don't be scared to pursue it,
Yeah.
claim it, manifest it, whatever
Yeah.
you got to do to achieve it. Walk in that right now.
And it's definitely important to map out your future. Because like if I could actually talk to my younger self, not that I would listen to me, but I would tell myself like, whether it's saving your money and investing in things, because the idea of investment didn't resonate with me because I had this disillusion that I was going to be rich and successful by the time I made it to my late 20s. And obviously that's not the case, but you know,
Right.
that's what I would tell myself. But I know me being younger, I didn't go through enough life experiences to truly believe my reality was going to become my reality.
Right.
You know?
And that's real. That's real because I'm learning today that I have the power to manifest whatever it is I want for myself. Of course,
Yeah.
those are channels. There are channels you have to go through and avenues you got to take, but we do have the power to manifest whatever we want for ourselves. So make it happen. Start by, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that kind of talk, start by defining the word manifest. You know what I mean? Start there. Define that word and um adopt the definition for how you should live the rest of your life. For real.
Yeah, and it's definitely important too. They say you are who you associate with. So if you're around a bunch of losers that ain't getting nowhere in life, you ain't gonna be no different. I promise you that. You are the sum of your the 5 friends that you hang out with the most.
Mm-hmm.
Even the younger version of myself, I've always heard that, but it never resonated with me because I didn't understand how my friends was holding me back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like drinking on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, thinking it's normal because the people I'm with are doing it.
Right.
And then, you step away from them, and then they'll get envious that you stepped away from them.
Real
you know what I'm saying? So when you start leveling up, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, you changed. But that's when you look at them and say, oh, yeah, you stayed the same.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
And Jay-Z said it too. Like, people say you changed, like you worked that hard to stay the same.
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm trying to change.
That's the whole goal. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be the same. I want to get
I want to
better
grow.
at what I'm doing. Get better at what I know. Learn more.
And it makes it makes them uncomfortable because they don't know how to interact with you no more now that you put away bad habits.
Right.
You don't waste time no more. Like, hey, bro, what you doing? It's like, shoot, chilling, but my chilling ain't chilling to go do nothing. It's chilling as
I'm out the way of you niggas. You know what I mean? I'm chilling, meaning I'm out the way of you niggas because I got shit going on, and you don't always have to brag or tell anybody what you got going on.
Yeah.
You just got to make it happen.
Yeah.
Man.
And yeah, that's why people are scared to share their dreams with other people because, they got so many negative people around them that they're like, oh, yeah, they're just going to shoot it down. But if you got some supportive friends, a support system, they might get you in touch with the right people or add some type of value to your life. You know? So, just keep that circle tight and keep them squares out, keep it a circle.
Right. Well, I ain't even going to say squares. I'm going to say keep lanes out, man, because a square, he just somebody he got his mind focused on not doing no bullshit. You know what I mean? I don't mind being square. You know.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you're right, because what we define as a square is somebody that isn't lame.
Right.
Like somebody that knows what they want to do and they don't accept the cultural norm of, doing what everybody does.
So it ain't nothing wrong with being a square. As I wish we would have taught that as being cool when we were younger, but I learned. I mean, I had examples of people who wasn't square and they were vicious. So, I don't mind the squareness. I don't mind being, straight up and down. I don't mind being organized. I don't mind being focused. That's what squares are. They're focused. They're organized. You know what I mean? And they get that shit done. So yeah, man, I always try to do better. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Always keep friends around you that want you to do better because they're gonna have advice, they're gonna have avenues, they're gonna have experience, they're gonna have knowledge from the experience that they've acquired trying to do right.
Right. And since I know him, I don't recall, but I don't think there was ever a time that I came around you and just talked about absolutely nothing the entire time. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not always productive, but there was something said that was productive towards what we're doing. Rather than, just gossiping and talking about stuff that doesn't matter.
Ain't gossiping.
Yeah.
Real tough.
Yeah, and you gotta call your friends out too when they gossip if you're a dude. Like if it's too much gossip, you know what I'm saying? There's a line. If you notice that 90% of your conversations about other people and what they're doing, then yeah, it's about time you check yourself and figure out what's really going on.
Right.
You know?
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Till the next time, man.
Yeah.
It's always beautiful giving. I mean, you know, I don't know where we're going with this, man, but I hope we hit every target we aim for, man.
Yeah,
And basically, it's just basically men conversation to help level the average kid, the average young adult, man. Help y'all understand what it takes to just be a decent individual out here.